What comes to mind when I tell you about someone who flinches every time they hear an adult yell? Does a specific name pop into your head? Does a specific face? Maybe you can't relate to this at all. What about the kid that goes home, is the funniest person that you know, but he sits in his room and he thinks about every way someone in his life is going to leave him because it's how it's happened before? Children everywhere across the world are dealing with undealt trauma. It affects how they perceive the world. Their reality is based upon heartbreak and fear. Today we're going to be talking about 3 types of trauma: acute, chronic, and complex. We're also going to go over different ways children show trauma. Then we're going to go over ways that you can help someone that is currently dealing with their trauma. So to start off, acute trauma, that is based on one specific event, given that be a natural disaster or witnessing a crime. One of the more common ones today has been found to be 9/11. And some of the things that stem from acute trauma is going to be PTSD, a lack of self-care, and a lack of self-respect. Secondly, chronic trauma. Now that's different than acute. Chronic is now a period of time. It's not just one specific event. It has to do with the kind of lifestyle you're surrounded by, if that be bullying or simply violence. Things that stem from chronic trauma are going to be this kind of sense of anxiety. You don't know what's going on in the world. Another thing that's been found is that people that experience chronic trauma are more likely to start repeating the actions that was created from the environment around them. Then complex trauma is a little different than the other two. Complex trauma has to do with interpersonal connection. It's how me and you relate to one another and how connected we are. Things that can kind of pull away from this is domestic abuse and negligence. It affects how someone views and creates personal connections. Now, there are multiple different ways children are exhibiting and showing their trauma. Sometimes it goes unrecognized, sometimes it just straight up gets ignored because people don't want to admit they have trauma, or parents don't want to admit that their kid has trauma. One of the biggest things that has been shown is depression. It is a feeling of hopelessness, it's a feeling of being trapped, it's a feeling that their self-worth means nothing because that's the world that they've grown up in. Another thing that children tend to show that are dealing with trauma is going to be this state of survival mode. They feel alone, like it is them against the world, and that no one is ever going to be there for them. And as troubling as this all is, there are different ways you can help someone dealing with trauma. One of them, the easiest thing to do, quite frankly, is just have an open mind. Try to understand what they're going through, what they're trying to overcome, how it's affecting them. Another thing would be encouraging feelings. They've gone their entire lives being told their opinion doesn't matter and that their feelings are invalid. Telling someone that their feelings are not a weakness and that it's not wrong to feel that way is going to change everything that they ever thought. Lastly, something you can do is to create a safe environment. Ways to do this is constant reassuring, letting them know that they're going to be okay and that it is okay. Another thing is physical contact. Simply giving someone a hug or shaking their hand or giving them a high five is creating the sense of relationships that they haven't had their entire lives. Kids everywhere are dealing with trauma, and it's our job to start to notice that. It's starting to recognize this. It's starting to figure out how they are showing their trauma to us and then doing something about it. These children, our peers, everyone across the world is the future of our society, is the future of humanity. And once we start to help these people overcome these things and dive into the darkest parts of their mind and find the light, only then can we move forward. And only then are we going to make a change. People are going to deal with trauma for the rest of their life, but it doesn't have to control them anymore.